prizes sent to you. Since TCCE met in August, which was lovely because we went hybrid, and then we had a lot of you online, a lot of us was in Knoxville. So we voted on the new board, and I just want to announce that real quick because I'm not sure that you guys know, but the new board is as follows. Stephanie Brackman is our new president with Rutherford County. Unfortunately, she can't be on today, but she is not feeling well. Libby Wickersham from the greater Gibson County is our president-elect. Vicki Bunch was holding this role, and she went on to another job. So Libby is our president-elect, and our vice president is Vanessa Bennett with Kingsport. Bradley Jackson is our secretary-treasurer. Mark Field is our immediate past president. For West Tennessee representatives, since Libby rolled up to president-elect, Amanda Love with Humboldt, and Travis McLeese with Paris is West Tennessee. Middle Tennessee, our new one, Kara, thank you, but she rolled off, and Kim Baker stepped in with Gallatin, and Brian Dolchell with Williamson Inc. is Middle Tennessee. East Tennessee is Tammy Ford, Blunt Partnership, and Rick Meredith with the Anderson County Chamber. And our at-large director is Ernest Strickland with Memphis. And the only other announcement I've got before we'll start talking is our 2021 schedule. And of course it is subject to change, but we do have a February 20, and we'll mail you these and email you this, but February 23rd, we have a virtual webinar with Glenn Shepard, and leave it to Glenn to have the best title, How to Help Businesses in Your Community Rebuild After COVID-19 and Make Yourself a Hero to Small Business Owners in the Process. So that information will come out soon. That's February 23rd. April 6th, we'll try our winter conference. We don't know if it'll be hybrid or live or all virtual, but that will plan to be in downtown Nashville, but we don't know. August 18th through 20th, we do know, hopefully by then we'll be back in Knoxville since we didn't get to do all the fun stuff in Knoxville. We're going to be back there in August to do our annual event and hopefully have all of our awards and what we're used to. And Institute, we really felt, and we still need to talk about this, but we really felt that needs to be live. So we know it probably wouldn't happen in March, and we're looking at November 7th through the 9th. We're still preliminary, but hoping that could work, and we'll discuss that. But that right now is our plans. So again, I can't tell you how good it is to see you guys. We're going to talk about dues, events, and other topics, and legislative update. But we'll start with Mark Field to lead our discussion on dues.
Hello, everybody. It's good to see you guys as well. So I'm sure you guys have been under the gun the same way most of us have been about thinking about your new budgets, the hit that you probably took during the pandemic from March through today. And I looked at the survey and I saw a lot of different kind of reactions to what people went through. Some people went through it without a whole lot of disruption. A few members saying, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to maintain or there's some kind of conditions you can help me with that keep me on. But I wanted to open it up to some of you guys because some of your answers were excellent. I know we had a lot of smaller businesses in our base levels that really asked us if we could make some concessions for them. We were happy to do that, whether it be put them on a monthly basis or quarterly or whatever it is they needed us to do to split those payments up to make it possible for them to stay. There were a few that we really wanted to help, particularly in the hospitality area or the restaurant area, that we just said, hey, just ride, tell us when you can pay, and if you can't pay, don't worry about it. We didn't have a whole lot of those, but we did have a few. And so I just wanted to open it up to you guys and tell me some of the things you did that really won you over in the community or really made it special for some of your members to be able to give them some concessions, or tell us some stories about success where you didn't have any problems at all. Anybody? God love you. I see all those hands. Anybody at all? So somebody, go ahead, Kara.
So we had a few folks of our small businesses that we offered to extend their renewal payment for either 30, 60, or 90 days. The majority of the folks, and I would say there were probably 15 or less out of 500 who opted for that extension, and all but maybe 2 of them renewed. So, they ended up renewing. They just needed to extend it by, 2 to 3 months. And we're very appreciative of that. We did have some go to the monthly dues. But that's always been an option, but I think sometimes people kind of overlook that option. But we were very pleased that, they were obviously people who wanted to maintain and stay as a member. They just needed that little bit of extra time, and we were happy to oblige, and they were happy to be able to stay.
Along those lines, according to this survey, 46% of you guys said that you were going to make some sort of change in your dues invoicing. Some of you tell me what kind of changes you're making. Anybody?
Hey, Mark, it's Ryan in Lawrence County. I just wanted to thank you, but we made a change in ours as far as like frequency of billing. We just typically did annual, but we just opened up the option to do monthly, quarterly, that type of frequency. And we found that was very helpful. And in fact, we even went out and asked, when is the best time, of year for you to be billed? Some people may have joined in May, but it's really better for them to be billed in December, that type of thing. And we've adjusted accordingly.
There's a real novel concept to actually ask your customer or your member what's most convenient for them, right? We don't do that a lot. Just to be completely honest, I mean, you guys know a lot of us had an annual billing cycle where we billed our members, in January or whatever. We used to do that, and now we're on a calendar basis. But what a great idea just to go to your members and say, hey, look, I know this has been a difficult time. When's the best time to bill you? When can you pay? When do you have a month that, that sales are better? So I think that's great, Ryan. Thank you. Anybody else that is changing their billing?
Hardeman County Chamber. We've done that too. We've done the mixture of now we accept payments on membership. We can split it up into 3 monthly payments or up to 5. That's helping a lot of folks stay engaged and retain their membership. And then also finding out the convenience on the billing as well. And just we switched to a chamber management program, which we'd never done before. And that's really helping us meet those goals. And it can help us fine tune for each person what they need. So I think that's been instrumental for us.
That's great. Good feedback. Anybody else? So I'm sitting here looking at the survey. It said, did you allow your members to delay paying for their dues or offer payment options? And 89% of you guys said that, yes, you were flexible about that. That's excellent. I think your members and your community members are going to feel good about you making some concessions for them. Some of you just did it across the board. Some of you said, hey, we know this is a difficult time and let us know how we can help you. Some of you just did it on a case-by-case basis. That's what we did. We sent a letter out instead of a drop letter. We sent a letter out that basically said, hey, we know we've all been through difficult times and we don't want to drop your membership. We want to make any kind of concession that we need to make in order for you to remain active. And if there's something we can do, please let us know what that is. And on a case-by-case basis, we worked with them. So anybody else? Some of you added ACA.
Mark Hinesley. Mark has his hand, I think, raised.
Mark.
Had something?
Good morning. I would just challenge everyone to think a little bit differently on the monthly dues and use that as an opportunity to get away from any type of annual renewal, hey, resell it again. Think along the lines of Planet Fitness. You get that monthly bill down to $30 a month or something like that. There is no renewal. As long as you pay your $30, you're a member. you'll never have to sell that customer again. You can remind them periodically about what you're doing for them, do all of those touches and all of that. But you have a unique opportunity to, in a sense, do away with annual memberships. And if you theoretically could do that with every single customer and everything is just a monthly draw, I know that's a little bit futuristic for some, but it's one of our BHAGs, and one of these days I won't be reselling memberships every 12 months. So just a thought.
Yeah, some of you guys that are thinking about doing that, there are all kinds of services out there, financial services companies that will take a really small amount and help you set your members up on a monthly basis. You might even have one of your financial organizations in your community that you can go and sit down with and say, if we were to do this, how would we do it?
Yeah.
And how would it be easy for us to keep up with? But I agree with Mark. This is a time for you to explore things that before your board may have said, well, there's no reason for us to do that now. But your board would certainly agree with now that this is a time to consider things going forward. We don't know what other kind of things might happen. And, I mean, this kind of ran up on us quickly, but it's really caused a lot of us to have to use that word pivot that everybody's using. But we've all had to make changes in order to meet the needs of our organization as well as our members.
Yeah, keep in mind, Mark, too, that those of us that bill a significant, even if we got away from January billing probably 10 or 12 years ago, but we still have a lot of people that get billed on January.
We do too.
To say, how's membership? Like, well, I can tell you about how membership is for people whose dues have come up since the pandemic started, but we probably have several hundred that will be due in the first quarter. There's no point in us making a financial plan until we see what we're going to get on those renewals, because I have a reason to believe that it may not be as strong as they've been through this year. Nobody's going to call and say, hey, I know my dues aren't up for 6 months, but go ahead and cancel me now. That hammer hasn't hit yet on our end.
Right. That's true of us as well. Almost a third of our members renew in that January, February time period. So that's going to determine how well we're doing, and anything else before or after that doesn't have as big an effect as that does. So in looking at the survey, it said, what is the estimated 2020 loss of revenue from your operations, and what kind of changes are you going to make from a budget perspective? Some of you give me some ideas about what you've had to do from a budget perspective and what that loss of revenue has caused you to do operationally.
Well, a couple $1,000s a month renting out our facility disappeared overnight, and that's not likely to come back anytime soon.
Yeah, were you renting to another association or someone else?
Just our meeting room rentals,
Your meeting room rentals. Okay.
Yeah, we probably have $22,000, $24,000 a year gone.
Wow.
We can't give it away now.
Yeah. What other kind of budget considerations did you have to make? I'm sure some of you downsized some. How many of you, just kind of by show of hands, how many of you had to downsize a little bit or let some people? Yeah. That was hard, wasn't it? Yeah, that's a really difficult choice to have to make when things are going well, and all of a sudden this kind of hits and you've got to make choices like that you hoped you didn't have to make. What other kind of budget considerations? I know, is there anybody that took a little bit of a hit on events?
I don't know, Mark.
Why are you laughing?
Libby.
To keep from crying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, our chamber is much smaller than a lot of yours. We did move our office. We had our own building and a pretty large space, and we've moved into a suite of offices to save money. But we thankfully were able to have our two largest events of the year, which are our golf tournament and our annual banquet that ends up being a moneymaker for us. And I don't know, to have been so concerned in April and May with budget, we've ended up having a great year as far as revenues are concerned. We're ending the year with a larger profit than we normally do. So I don't know what, maybe it's because we didn't have any travel for the year. You know, a lot of the expenses that we normally incur, we did not incur this year because we weren't going anywhere. But we did, I mean, we didn't make staff cuts because there's not any to make. But
Right.
we did move offices to save money, which was just a smart thing to do going forward as well, because who knows what the next few years are going to be like.
How many of you made corrections or things that you did that you said, I'm probably never going to do that again now? Anybody? We have corrected. We're still going to do in-person events, but I don't know about you guys, but there are a whole lot of things that we can do by Zoom now that are effective and that we probably are never going to go back and do now. You know, our board meetings were every other month because of people having to come from West Knoxville or wherever else and taking the time to come down here for an hour and a half. And our board meetings have been much more effective on Zoom. And so we probably will go to monthly now on Zoom instead of making people drive down here and spend an hour driving back and forth, parking in Market Square, coming in the building. It's been very effective. I'm sure the Tennessee Chamber, I've been on a couple of board meeting calls that were very effective and people didn't have to travel to Nashville to actually do the meetings. Anybody else find that they've been able to do some things effectively through this that maybe has saved some money or they won't go back and do?
This is Tanya from Arlington. I'm glad that Zoom feature has worked for the board you're talking about. For me, in a really small community with a small chamber, my board has become disengaged. And without that collegiality of bringing them together and joking around and just the handshakes and the being in person, there's some board members that I haven't seen or heard from in months.
Wow.
So I try to, I'm trying to reach out and send them an email and try to engage, but I don't know if it's more because they're covered up with their own business concerns or if it's just that break in the link of in person. So just a different perspective.
Yeah.
That some people really have liked the fact that they don't have to travel for a meeting now, so you get to take that part out of their time suck of the day. But I think we're missing something a little bit in our smaller community because we're having to do everything by Zoom.
Yeah. Well, and I tell you, it's been that way for some of our larger investors. I felt really, uncomfortable about the fact that I can't go by and sit down and talk with them about what's going on in their business. And it does seem a little impersonal over Zoom in that atmosphere. So I totally get what you're saying, Tanya. Just for your board, for us, it's our bigger investors. For you, it's your board. Anybody else?
I think there's a small revenue generating opportunity doing things over Zoom. If you look at Miss Susan Mainer's beautiful backdrop for the city of Memphis there, I've been encouraging our chamber directors to use those backdrops to generate revenue by having some member logos on them. If you ever watch Mike Vrabel and his Titans press conferences, he's got himself a little backdrop there with all those sponsors behind him. And so some of the chambers have been able to renew their memberships, encourage new ones, and actually get some more sponsorship dollars by implementing something like that.
That's a great idea, Dan. Thanks for that. You can do a step and repeat backdrop there with different logos of your highest investors or of the event that's coming up, and do it fairly inexpensively.
Yeah, I need to start charging for mine.
Yeah.
Good
That's
idea. Thank you.
I think Brandy had something.
Yeah,
I was
Brandy.
going to say one thing that we have changed. We are meeting in person some now. December's kind of up in the air with the uptick in numbers. But one thing that we changed that we will not go back to for our events is we have made everyone prepay for the events. We used to have a pay at the door option, and our events are fairly break even for us. So if somebody RSVPs, doesn't come and pay at the door, we're out that money because we've given the caterer their number. So that is a change that has been implemented because of COVID and the restrictions where they have to prepay, that I think we're going to pretty much stick with going into 2021 in the future, is that prepayment is going to be required.
So some of you guys tell me what in your budget, whether it's budget planning or whether it's in the budget year that we're currently in, tell me some things that you had to eliminate or you eliminated that were helpful to you. What were some of the things you eliminated? I know some of you had to make some cuts in personnel, but what are some other things? Travel. I heard Libby talk about, one of the things that we had in our budget as well. We eliminated all unnecessary travel. It was just something that we felt like we needed to do. Is there anybody else that has some ideas about cuts they made that was helpful to them, or that you will think about doing in your next budget?
Hey, Mark.
Yeah. Hey, Jim.
Hey. So, for this budget year, obviously, we planned on having 0 event income whatsoever. It's normally about 23% of our overall annual budget. We cut it with the thought process that if we made money on events, it would be a nice surprise. And while I don't think it's a permanent place for us to live moving forward, it's actually been helpful because it's helped us really see what the members value in terms of events, at a revenue standpoint, and what they don't.
Right. Yeah, they're gonna, if you're not doing something, I know that's been true of us. They've told us what they want us to do and what they don't want us to do. We've had a lot of members say, you're not doing many events anymore. We really want these events. We really want to meet to do this. So that's true. I mean, I think you figure out what they're willing to do without and what they aren't. Anybody else?
Mark, one thing we're doing on our budgets, we are going to operate on the 2020 budget for a while. We're not going to create new ones and start on those just because we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So across our board, because every one of our programs has its own budget, we're carrying over those until we know more.
And that's a great segue into events. Our next topic, we're wanting to know what everybody's doing with that and what you plan to do. You're right, Mark. I think the board meetings, why would we ever go back to not doing Zoom on board? But please tell me we can't. We're not going to do Zoom for everything from now on. I may explode, but I'm so appreciative of Zoom and it's worked well. But I'll throw it over to Carolyn to talk about some of the events and some of what the survey said and talk about what y'all are doing.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Mark. And thanks, Susie. I know Susie and I talk about almost every day, like when can we all be in person again? I think ideally we're all social people. So it's definitely been hard in that aspect. So it is really good to see everybody. But like she said, and I know Mark kind of walked through the survey, so I'm going to do that a little bit at first and then just ready for some discussion. I know everybody has been doing really great things and altering their normal in-person events for a lot of virtual options. It looks like, and the survey is actually downloaded in the chat, so you guys can access that now or wait till later. We'll email it like Susie mentioned. But pretty much percentage wise of the over 50 responses we had, it's really split. So virtual over the last 6 months, we've got about 60% of people doing that. We've got about 50 that are doing hybrid, and then also about 50 that are doing in person. So for the first few minutes, just kind of wanted to look back at what we've done since March and would love to hear from you guys. So some of the responses actually said that people are not choosing a virtual option anymore, that they are coming in person. And I know I personally was surprised to see that for us at the Tennessee Chamber. We've started to offer a few hybrid options, but that virtual is still dominating. So just open it up and would love to hear kind of what you guys have done in the last couple months, virtually, hybrid, and in person, and what your members, how that feedback is coming in for those events. would love to hear that. And I think Sherry specifically, I saw her on there. I know you guys have continued kind of business as usual in a lot of ways. So if you don't mind, Sherry, starting off with how it's been for y'all since March.
Yes, I think a lot of it depends on your community. We're a smaller community. We're a chamber of 350. We have, a population of around 14,000. So in a smaller community and your numbers and what everyone else is comfortable with, we started in August with in-person events. Most of those went to about half. So if we had a luncheon, it would be about half of the attendance. We made changes to where it was box lunches and things were different and made it easier for people to, have the hand sanitizer. And so we put in a lot of things in place, but we're also continuing with our leadership class. That was something that people were interested in doing. We did lessen the number, so we only have 15 in our class this year for our Leadership Portland class. We did cancel our December class. Actually, we postponed it. We just pushed it out just because of the holidays, trying to keep everybody safe and letting them after coming in from Thanksgiving and December. So we just pushed it out another month with that. So again, trying to make things as in person as we can. We had our annual dinner, murder mystery, did cut the numbers in half. We had 100 in attendance, but the location is huge. So it was a large area for that 100 people attendance. And we had to stop selling tickets. Fall Festival is outdoors. We actually have our parade, Santa pictures coming up, things tomorrow. Again, I think it depends on your community. We are social distance Santa. He's in the back. The kids are in the front. He's got a mask on. So, we're living in a strange world, but we'll have cookie decorating. We have one event during this time that will be inside, and that will be cookie decorating, but they're tables for families, and only people coming inside are the families at each table with the temperature checks and the mask for adults. So again, we're making it as normal as possible, but trying to follow any guidelines that we can. And we've had a lot of good reception. Now, the one thing that we have done is in our advertising, we're advertising less outside of our town. Usually we're very big on tourism, so we're wanting people to come in. So when we had our fall festival, we didn't want to bring in thousands of people like we do for our strawberry festival. So in keeping it small, we were really just trying to give our local people something that they could do outdoors, safe, which again helps with that. We had 55 vendors in a larger area. So again, just doing what we can to what people feel comfortable. And then again, making them safe.
That's awesome, Sherry. Thank you. If anybody else wants to share, please just chime in. I know of reading through a lot of the responses, it sounds like most of us are planning to continue a virtual option. So love to hear from a few people, what are your plans for virtual meetings or events once we roll into January, and how long have you already scheduled some of those out? Are you waiting to decide? Well, I know a lot of people have looked at maybe April. I've seen a lot of the early second quarter responses, but love to hear about virtually going into 2021, what your plans are. And don't all respond at once.
I'll say, I think like Sherry said, it all depends on the community. We have to be so sensitive now. I think if we threw in February, we would just look silly because it's not going to probably happen in person, and we would just be a waste of time, and it's like we would be out of touch. But we're planning to do so much virtually that first quarter, and I know you all can relate to this. We want to be sensitive. We know we have some good information, but on charging, we've always charged for our stuff, and of course we didn't for months, and that was the right thing to do. But now we can't do it forever, and it's good stuff, and we pay speakers, but that's just one thing that I know you all are going through too, and how you're handling that. But that's a struggle.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Susie. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way we do, but we also found after the first few months and a lot of free virtual events that the Zoom burnout is real. And for a lot of things, if we had not charged, and got people to commit, whether that's $25 or, I mean, most of ours honestly didn't really get over 50 this year for a lot of our, especially 1-hour virtual meetings. But that any kind of payment we found really puts a bigger commitment to all of our registrants. And kind of like Brandy, I love that you mentioned that too. You know, if you can't pay at the door anymore, or, you know, if you just don't show up, we don't charge you. You know, it makes a lot more accountability for all of us, and adds value, because we feel like all of us, you know, we schedule these meetings, and I think we are getting more selective, because in March, April, May, you know, it was just overload. It was how much information can we push out? How can we help our members? We want them to see us. We want to be there for them. And now it's more so, what really do they need? You know, more mindful of their time, of our staff time, scheduling purposeful meetings. So I know for us, that's been, I'd say, gosh, from March to now. I mean, Susie, we did how many? We've counted with any virtual meeting event, 1 hour, multiple hours. I think over how many would you say?
We did 112 events this year and for an hour, but you know, we just, yeah. And then for 2021, we just don't know. And I know that's a struggle too, for doing budget and topics. And so that's why we're here and trying to learn from each other, but it's been a year.
And also along that note, while we are talking, we did get a couple requests for speaker suggestions. So kind of just to maximize our time too, if you guys have suggestions for speakers and topics, if y'all will just type that in the chat, Susie and I will create a log of that at the end and we'll share it via email, but we can kind of multitask two at once there.
Hey, Carolyn, I was gonna let you know for our, like with workforce development, you know, we're very event heavy. That's kind of what we do, a lot of events in workforce development. And we've had to kind of change the way we look at things as well. And now we're starting to do more collaborative projects instead of events per se. So you're still staying relevant and you're showing relevancy with your chamber. But you're having to be creative and look at those other organizations that you can collaborate with and work on larger projects. And so that's kind of where our shift has gone in the last couple of months. And we've got some great things that we're working on for 2021 that's kind of on the horizon. But I would say just look at who you can partner with and collaborate with. You know, in your school system, in your CTE realm, in your, you know, manufacturing companies, all of those, you know, now's a good time to make those connections with your businesses and industries. If you keep thinking, I need to reach out to those people, now's a great time to do that. So you're establishing those relationships. So when those partnerships and those projects come up, you're kind of shifting a little bit and being able to stay relevant for your programming and for your chamber members at the same time, but you're not having to be event heavy, you know, as well. So.
That's awesome, Laura. Thank you. I know also in the survey results, a lot of, I know Donaldson Hermitage specifically, I can see that in the comments. I'm not sure if they're on, but a lot of communities did different support local campaigns during the last 6 months or so. And would love to hear from any of those. Lots of great ideas, especially about chamber chats. A few different groups mentioned that. So would love to hear some of those.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Go ahead. What we're doing in Memphis, we're using our ambassadors, which to keep them engaged. And we're trying to talk to everybody, the staff, ambassadors, anybody, once they go out to eat at a chamber member restaurant or go shopping, especially if it's a local shop, something like that, post it on social.
I just thought we could,
you know, just
I don't
post it.
want them to.
But that's what we're doing, just to let people know that they're open and we're eating with them and supporting them. So it's just a little something to get their names out on social media.
Hey, from a smaller chamber aspect, especially in the beginning when I was working from home, it was difficult to try, and we were all navigating at that point what we were even doing. But I just decided early on, because I mean, we're not a staff of multiple people, that I could not meet the needs of my members, as in getting them information and staying in touch with them and trying to convert or create virtual events. So it was real important to our members, and we've had several to reach out to us and thank us for keeping them in the loop of things such as the CARES Act and resources available to them as small businesses. And we have been more in touch with our members in the last several months, probably than we ever have been, because we've had to be. So we haven't really converted to virtual events. Like I said earlier, we were able to have a couple of our larger events. Some of our events for the year just were canceled completely. We didn't try to turn those into virtual events. But we've had a great response from members just in, I don't know, letting us know that what we were doing is what they needed and that they appreciate the chamber. So I might have mentioned this earlier in the year on one of these calls, but real early on, we did a t-shirt campaign, a Gibson County Strong shirt that we sold out of the chamber, and all of the profits from that we distributed back to our local small businesses. And we did extremely well with that. It helped that our local grocery store chain owns multiple stores throughout the county, and they purchased those for every one of their employees to wear on Fridays. So we were able to give quite a bit of money back to each of our members, and they were very, very appreciative of that. They couldn't believe, normally we go to them asking them for money, and we were able to go to them and give them money for once. So that's just kind of where we are. I think it's so different. We run into this and on lots of things throughout the state because we have such large chambers and then small chambers like ours, that we're all having to do different things. But for us, that's the virtual events. And we also realized or thought we're just coming up with stuff to make us feel like we're doing something. And in reality, people were tired of Zoom. They sat on Zoom all day long at work. They were meeting virtually all day long. And they didn't want they didn't want a business after hours that they had to stay even an hour after work to virtually sit around and talk. They just wanted to be done with sitting in front of a computer. So we just completely went away from that and have tried to do as much in person as we can.
We did the same thing in Humboldt as that. We literally, I think pretty much we sold t-shirts and signs and masks and we started off giving that money as chamber bucks, gift certificates out, just did Facebook contests and just handed them out on the street and said, go visit these members and show them some love. And then we ended up spending a lot of the money on Facebook ads because a lot of these businesses had Facebook pages, but they didn't do ads. So we just would create ads for them and spend that money for the really small businesses that couldn't afford somebody to help them with that, buying them ads. And like Libby said, the only virtual we've done have been like, we've used our Google partnership and done webinars and things like that. And we did a few chamber chats with members, doing interviews just to see how they were doing. We did some interviews with the mayor and just to keep the information going from the city and all of the information that came in from TCCE and ACCE and US Chamber, and just kept pushing all of that out just to be, I hate to say be relevant, but to be helpful. And that was the easiest way we could figure to do it because nobody wanted to, like Libby said, nobody wanted to do a business after hours. They wanted in person. So we went back to in person for our 2 networking events, our morning mingle and our women in business. The women in business begged, as Mark said, they're going to tell you what they want. They wanted in-person women in business networking bad. So you can get, instead of having our regular buffet of dips and snacks and things, we got individual dips and individual hummus and individual bags of pretzels and set all of those out so you can just grab it and go and sit with your glass of wine and network.
That's great, Amanda. Thank you so much. I'm going to add just a couple more comments and then one final question so we can pass it over to Vanessa for a couple more things. But did want to add, and Amanda, you hit on that, so did Mark, the biggest thing I think events-wise for us too, for sponsorships, for getting people to attend, just a lot of changes, is asking. It's asking our members. Jim Skelton in our office is just fantastic with one corresponding with all our members, but he's been very intentional about asking them, how can we take your sponsorship that's normally in person, on a banner, you get to meet all these people face to face, how can we still give you that value? And we have been able, fortunately, to find some ways to do that. And of course, it's not bringing in as much, but, fortunately, we have been successful, which we are so happy. And I think a big part of that is just listening. We're sharing information, but we're listening, seeing what value we can truly add. Because right now it's not necessarily all about the money. We want our members to be happy, to stay open, and to find value in all of our chambers. And then one final question, and then Vanessa, I'll pass it to you. One item on the survey was about a clay shoot that a chamber does. So if you responded that, or if your chamber does one and you have any input on the success, kind of how to get it going, we'd love to hear that. And then also a lot of people mentioned just outdoor events. I know we're getting into the cold season. We've kind of hit it already, but any other outdoor event ideas should we need to continue spreading people out for, maybe even through the summer, just in anticipation. So anybody add any outdoor event comments, would love to hear. And if you did the clay shoot, if you'll email Susie and I, we would love to hear that later. So Vanessa, we can go ahead on over to you.
Perfect. I'm going to do some other topics. One that I want to start with that was on the survey is about our leadership programs. If you know me, it's one of my favorite things. We are still doing a program right now in person. We've had to make some changes like with everything else, but we decided to go for it. We have a smaller class. It's about half what we normally do, but we actually had participants. I was a little worried about that, but there's companies that still wanted to do it. So we're going forward. We were able to do our retreat along with our regional partner, Joni Parker. She actually brought her Greenville class up and did her retreat here in Kingsport. We were able to do all the safety protocols, and that was a fun time. So I encourage you to make plans for the next one, be preparing for that 2021 class. If you're not doing a class, can anybody talk about things you are doing in place of it? Are you doing things to put your program out there, even though you may not be having a class? Is anybody doing anything?
We're, hey Vanessa, we are looking at re-engaging our alumni, because we usually start our leadership in August, and we had very low registration. We shoot for 20 to 25, and we had 2 register. And so, obviously we put it off, and our goal is to start it, probably February or March. But what we're finding is it may not be time still. And so we're thinking about, okay, do we do Zoom happy hours, or is this like an in-person type of alumni re-engagement event? And so we're looking at whether it's professional development offerings. I think we're looking at LeaderCast as an option there. Just, something to say, hey, develop yourself professionally. It's not, leadership is more than just, going and touring the wastewater plant and your tourism attractions, right? But like, what's the continuing value of it and being a participant in? And it may just be, again, like I mentioned, the afternoon happy hour on Zoom where everyone's at their desk, maybe with their favorite drink, and they're just talking about the community issues or what their businesses are facing. So we're looking at doing that, but that's been really challenging. And honestly, we're kind of projecting that to be our biggest hit in our budget this year is our leadership program and loss of revenue there, because that's a big moneymaker for us.
Absolutely. But you hit it right on, Ryan, where you said it's more than just that daily tuition and daily programs. You've got to stay relevant, because we are going to get past this. Things are going to get better. And when we do, you want your sponsors, your attendees, your alumni to know that you're more than just that program. You are leading in your community. For an example, some of the things that we're doing early on, I think it was in April, we have our adult flagship program plus our youth. We just recently took on the professionals in there as well. We had our sign company donate us some of the yard sale signs, so to speak, and we took those around to our first responder locations, the fire departments, the hospitals, just to say thank you. Now in April, little did we know that these signs will be still up in December, but they're still up. And I hear stuff all the time that they walk in and see that. So it's those little things. You're still putting your programs out there in a good way. Another thing that we just started December 1st is a hashtag Do Good Kingsport campaign. We're running it on our leadership social media platforms. And we got one of our chair, her name is Triana. She works for Domtar, the paper mill here, but we have a tree costume on her. So now she's Triana for the month. And every day for the month of December, we've got her out somewhere in the community doing something good. So what we want to do is challenge people to go do something good. Everybody needs a smile. So yesterday, for an example, we went to Marsh Regional Blood Center. We had Triana. They're giving blood. So we did a post and we promoted Marsh. The day before, we went to Pet Works. We took a bag of dog food to them. It's our local new animal shelter. So we used the hashtag Do Good Kingsport and we tagged Pet Works. So these are something, it's not costing a thing, but we're putting those things out there and it's all over our Leadership Kingsport pages. And people are sharing it and we want them to do the hashtag. So again, you're staying relevant in front of your community.
Vanessa, I was going to say our leadership, used to be a part of the chamber. Now it's separate from us, but Leadership in Knoxville did a fantastic event. It's their annual mayor's lunch that they always have a big speaker come in. But this year they decided to do that lunch with only 4 people seated per table. So we were on the 4 edges of the table, and they asked some of the community leaders to go ahead and sponsor a 1/4 of a table instead of a whole table, and so they were able to do pretty well revenue wise that way. They can social distance. That was another thing that was important, but then they did the rest of it virtually. So not only were, like, for instance, I was there representing our company, but there were other people here at the chamber on the virtual event as well. And they had what we call the crown jewels of Knoxville. We had TVA, ORNL Lab, University of Tennessee, and the Great Smokies National Park, the CEOs or the representatives of those 4 crown jewels of our area, of our region. And they had a panel discussion. It went incredibly well. They had great attendance. I think they had 500 people virtually, and they had 125 people at tables. And so that was down 350 people from their normal lunch, but they didn't have the food cost, and they didn't, and the convention center, I think, made the space available to them, at a reduced rate. So there are ways to get creative that when you've got to have people together, the decision makers in your community, you want to bring them together, you can do that safely, but you can also make it so other people can attend that as well from a virtual. So it's kind of a hybrid event, but they did a great job. I was super impressed with what they had done.
Fantastic. And that's what it's all about. Don't just cancel the programs, stay in front of them, stay relevant, and keep on doing things for your community. Because I promise you, these people will come back at that and know that your leadership program is doing the right things. Any other comments? Please keep sharing these ideas. Laura just texted me a few minutes ago. When people are sharing, people are learning. So this discussion is what it's all about. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bradley Jackson. He is going to give us a legislative update.
Hey, Vanessa. Hello, everyone. It's Bradley with the Tennessee Chamber. Hope everybody's well. Sorry, I'm actually dealing with some maintenance office things here at the chamber, like we always have to do. It's always something. I'll go ahead and give you all a legislative update really for 2021, but I've been listening to the conversation, and I do want to emphasize, I feel like 2021 is going to be a great year. I think it's a great opportunity for chambers of commerce as we start to look at economic recovery and hopefully some vaccines. So I think, for chambers to be able to show value, Carolyn mentioned for our membership, we've had our membership people reaching out to every member and asking them, what can we do for you? Do you need any help? Do you have any questions? Things like that. So I feel like, the pandemic gave the chamber a good opportunity for us to really show our value and to be helpful to our businesses, because believe it or not, we're in such a unique position we can funnel information. We can be a conduit for government, agencies and our employers. And it's a tremendous opportunity, I think, for chambers to play a role in that. So we are very bullish about 2021, especially in the legislature, and appreciate you all's partnership and work. In terms of the legislative session, the Tennessee Chamber, we are setting up 2021 really to message it that the chamber is committed toward, economic recovery for Tennessee. We want to make sure Tennessee stays open in a responsible way, but also a way that allows for economic growth and businesses to get back to normal in a safe and productive way. I think the chambers, Susie and Carolyn and I always talk whenever we do host an event or whenever we talk, we want to represent and be really the gold standard for how to pull off an event and how to do it safely, because people are watching us, the distancing requirements, us having hand sanitizer, masks, things like that, because we've always said we never want anybody to ever say, well, I think I got sick at a chamber event. So the things that we do try to do is be very responsible, and we follow our local and state health guidelines with the events that we have. So when the legislative session convenes, I think Susie and Carolyn, I don't know if you've all talked about it, our annual Day on the Hill, we've put a lot of thought into that. And, usually that is a February event, and everybody likes it being a February event. It's early, right when the legislature convenes and comes into session. But our thoughts this year is that when we look at data and models, in the Northeast right now, their COVID cases are really growing a lot faster. And when it gets colder here in January and February, we could be experiencing higher cases here in Tennessee. So our thoughts are to what if we push back our annual meeting to April? We think the legislature will still be convening at that time, and us doing it in a way that allows a virtual option as well as an in-person, but it's going to be limited in person to, I believe, about 25% of what total attendance could be. So Susie, I may have let the cat out of the bag. I don't know if you all have talked about that, but that's some of what we're thinking for the legislative session. They will convene as normal in January. They're going to take up a number of items. We think it's going to be a very active year for business, and the bills that we monitor on a number of fronts. People are going to be coming with a lot of proposed legislation, to make changes during the pandemic, or things that were never considered that they want to get in there and change. A lot of that really does impact the business community. So we're going to be very active, staying on top and watching a lot of issues that are gonna come up. Some that we think that we may hear about immediately, and I don't know if you all have heard any, because we'd love to hear about things that you are hearing from your employers, is the issue of local health departments. During the pandemic, 6 of you all that are in the urban areas, because your health department is run by a licensed physician, you all have, your health department has a lot more autonomy to do inspections, to require PPE, to monitor business activity, and enforce it a lot more so. In the other 89 counties that do not have a licensed physician that runs your health department, they pretty much revert to where the state falls. So Governor Lee's, Tennessee pledge, they really had to follow those. We've heard some legislators who have gotten complaints from businesses in the more urban areas who've said, across the county line, everybody could be up and running, and I could not be. My local health department, seemed to be very stringent on me. They had a lot of rules that I couldn't comply with. I tried to, regarding testing, employee leave, different things like that. So we've heard that the legislature wants to look and see, should they create more of a uniform state standard where the state has a standard and all health departments have to follow that during a pandemic. So we've not taken a position on that, but I think that'll be an important point of discussion. Some of your businesses and your members, they've talked to legislators about, these type of issues. So we expect that they will come up. Other things in terms of the chamber agenda, like I said, we're going to really focus on branding our message to our members that 2021 is going to be all about our commitment to focusing on Tennessee's economic recovery. And we play a vital role in this for you. We want to make sure you are compliant and that you know what the rules are, because the rules are changing rapidly and in some cases drastically, depending on the business sector that you may be in. So the chamber is here for you all. We're going to look out for you. We're going to keep you informed. We're really an essential resource for you all to have just in the special space that we're in. But one issue vitally important is going to be workforce. Workforce, we've heard a lot from our companies that the pandemic has really exacerbated their workforce issues that they had even beginning before the pandemic. Because after the pandemic, now a lot of folks, even more so, are out of the employment pool. They're not working because of the pandemic, because they are scared. They may be older, they may be have at-risk conditions. So we've seen a lot of employers have moved a lot more toward automation and technology to be able to replace or enhance their workforce efforts. We think at the state level, they really need to take another look and make sure that the funds that you all have gotten for these LEAP programs are there and available. Fully funding the BEP is going to be really important, especially as internet services have put a stress on a lot of local school districts that we all know whenever they have to go home, kids, it really creates a lot of difficulty, especially in communities that don't have adequate broadband or lack that for individuals. So that's another one in terms of infrastructure, really pushing the legislature to find a solution to expanding broadband all across Tennessee. It really is essential, we think, in this day and age that your communities have this. It's about your economic growth and it's about opportunity. Of course, some of the other cable providers, they will say, well, actually, we may offer it to everybody going down a street out in a rural area, and we only have about 30% of people that take it. So trying to get those numbers up for them is important as well, because a 30% kind of acceptance rate on a broadband expansion or movement out in the rural area makes it a little bit difficult for them. Some other things I think chambers that's going to be coming up this year, one is vaccines. I think local chambers of commerce are going to play a very crucial role, or can play a crucial role, in the distribution and coordination of vaccines. And I think the Tennessee Department of Health, they are looking at different community partners who have the capacity and the depth out in communities to be able to help with this. So I think that may be an opportunity for a lot of you all, but also to communicate what are the guidelines going to be to vaccine distribution and what it's looking like right now. Tennessee, we are very thankful to be in a position where we're an early vaccine state, that they have allotted a certain portion of vaccines for Tennessee distribution. Now that is going to go, first of all, to at-risk populations. So that'll be nursing home populations, those that are in hospitals, those that are elderly and have high-risk health conditions. That's kind of the first. Then the second one will be actual healthcare workers, EMTs, people that work in hospitals, nursing home facilities, things like that are absolutely crucial infrastructure. Now, you all will start to get a lot of questions. We're already getting them from our employers. Well, I'm a manufacturer and I make a crucial item. Where am I going to fall in this vaccine distribution? Our message to them is, do not require the vaccine right now, or only wait until the state says that there is enough vaccine for you to be able to require it of your employees. So I know a lot of them are eager to find out. They're getting a lot of questions from their employees. A lot of employers seem to be not going to require or mandate the vaccine, but having a protocol that, if you get COVID, you're going to have to take 14 days off, and that's not going to be paid. Or if you get the vaccine, then you can come back to work, of giving employees that option. So a lot of that is still being flushed out, but I do think that's a great opportunity for local chambers. Another issue too is more economic relief, we think, is on the way, and you all have played a crucial role in answering questions with already the small business relief program. There's the agricultural grants, the non-for-profit grants that got distributed, answering questions. We think those will probably go through the Department of Revenue again, and they'll try to identify local businesses in your area. And I know it was hard for a lot of your local businesses to find their small business loan or grant dollars. So we've encouraged them that if they're going to do that program again, it really should be easier for businesses to find their money and to get confirmed for it. Right now, Congress is negotiating on what seem to be fairly close to a compromise that is going to have additional dollars that's going to go to the states. And also it will have an enhanced unemployment fund benefit as well of $300 a week. The prior one was $600 on top of the state's $275. So it's going to be about half that, it looks like, for us. The legislative session, we're not sure. We think they're going to go in and then they may, adjourn and test everyone and, kind of come back later when things clear up. Their fear is that they stay in session for a long time and then, COVID is running rampant and then they don't know about it until, 7 days or a week or 10 days until after everybody has gotten it and everybody gets sick. In the legislature, we think the House will probably be meeting a lot more in person. We don't think the Senate will. We think the Senate will kind of keep up how they have been meeting, which is, you have to have an appointment to come in. All meetings are virtual. You cannot attend any of the meetings, so it's really a much different interaction in both bodies. But we do foresee them, they're going to convene in January. They're going to take up a number of items. We don't foresee having a really big agenda. Matter of fact, leadership has kind of asked us to hold back. A lot of members, they just want to come in and pass a budget, do some necessary things that they have to do and then get home. So, but we do think it's a good opportunity to brand it, for you all too, that look, this is about Tennessee's economic recovery and helping our business community. Tennessee, when you compare us to a lot of other states, our case counts are actually higher than other Southeastern states. Whenever you look at cases per 100,000, Tennessee's one of the highest in the Southeast. Now, there's a lot of states out west that are even higher than us. One issue that this is causing for us, and I think local chambers play a key role in this, is you all being a voice in your communities to talk about, look, wearing masks does work. I know, we don't like to get in the middle of controversial things, but really it is about economic recovery because a lot of these local health systems are starting to get overwhelmed. And if they get overwhelmed and they start having to turn away people in your community, you're gonna that's gonna have a dire economic impact there in your community. So making sure, I think chambers communicating, look, masks are important, wear your masks. If you're a business and you're opening, here are the guidelines that you should follow because we all want our economy to stay open and safe. So I think that is something that we're looking out on the horizon as well. The governor's emergency powers, we think, will be another issue this session. Some in the legislature think that maybe the legislature should have some say-so in emergency powers, but it'll be just really a battle, I think, between the executive branch and the legislative branch. Other things, grant dollars. The chamber, I may get a question, nonprofits were qualified and received, I think it was $80 million across the state. Actually, it was 120 in grant funds. That did not apply to C6s, which most of us are. Some of you all are C3s. Just to be candid, I don't foresee the state offering grant funds to local chambers. We've asked them about this. We know a lot of you all have been really essential to your communities and your memberships are down and you need some help. But they seem to have been reluctant by saying they don't think the U.S. Treasury actually authorizes the use of these CARE grant stimulus dollars for C6s and chambers of commerce. So we will continue to monitor that for you all. But overall, if we can be a resource, we will be rolling out our agenda here in the next week or so. We want that, you all please take that, put your brand on it and say, this is what we're going to be working on in the legislature moving forward. We ask, as always, that you all, and you are a great help on this, the chamber and business community. We have a great grassroots effort whenever we bring up issues to you all that you talk to your legislators about them. It helps us tremendously. And we think it adds a lot of value to your members, especially if you communicate it. Feel free anytime to take things we give you. You don't have to give us credit for it. You can put your name on it and send it out. We are good with that. So always let us know how we can help, and we will be in touch whenever the legislature convenes. So Susie, I'll turn it over to you. I'll answer any questions too.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, just unmute for Bradley or anything.
Bradley, I just wanted to make a comment. Thanks again for everything you guys do, and thanks for the help you're going to give us in the legislature. One comment I would make, we were on a call yesterday with our major health system representatives. And again, the case counts are getting high and the ICU beds are dwindling, but that's not their biggest problem. Their biggest problem is personnel. So they said they can make beds available. They can turn regular rooms into ICU type rooms. but personnel. So we are in a really difficult situation, particularly in urban areas as it relates to personnel to be able to care for people. So we're at a difficult time right now. I just wanted to reiterate what you said about trying to, and our CEO even asked us, he said, I don't have any right to tell you what you do personally, but I will tell you to try to be safe because it affects everybody around you. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mark. Yeah.
All right, we are right at a little bit over, but it was so good to see everybody today. I thought it was fascinating. I know everybody's community is different, but we learned that across the state, some people went from all in person and some people went all virtual. Some people went to more events and some people didn't host any. So we are all different and hopefully we can learn from each other. And we so appreciate you popping on today. One quick thing on hybrid events, we've done a couple. We learned a lot in Knoxville, just with the sound. Carolyn's done a few here, and so those have worked. And if she'll kill me, but if you have any questions on those, she is a good resource for the hybrid thought that we do. We use the platform with Zoom for that. Again, we'll email those survey results shortly, along with the dates for 2021. And again, I found it funny that our Zoom Around the Room game, that someone had a stuffed bunny at the ready to show. So that was hilarious. Y'all stay safe and we'll keep in touch. And thanks for everything you do. Have a wonderful weekend.